Hi everyone. Let's now understand how to give the NMAT strategy. I hope by now all of you guys have already booked your slots for the first NMAT exam. I'll quickly help you guys now understand how you should go about planning for the next 2 months for your NMAT. The agenda being to target a 230 plus, making sure you're getting into the NMIMS. Let's first have a quick overview of the NMAT exam so that we can plan our approach for each section in a much better way. So if you see, the NMAT exam is made up of 3 sections where you have quantitative ability and 48 questions with 60 minutes time, logical reasoning another 40 questions, 38 minutes time, language skills, that's your verbal ability, 22 minutes for 32 questions. Overall, if you see, it is an exam having 120 questions, 120 minutes. Good thing is there is no negative marking. Okay, 3 marks for each correct question, so your total is going to be out of 360. Okay, and there is no negative marking. Cutoffs, what I have given you guys a rough idea is based on the analysis from the past 5 years how the cutoffs have been for NMIMS Mumbai main campus. The overall cutoff is been in the range of 208 to 211. Along with the overall cutoff, NMIMS also gives you each sectional cutoff. So keep in mind you have to make sure you score well in each of these sections. The sectional cutoff for quants is usually in the range of 70 to 75. Logical reasoning is 65 to 70 and language skills is 50 to 55. So you got to make sure you are meeting these individual sectional cutoffs along with the overall cutoff. Now, good part is that we do not have any negative marking, so you have to make sure you attempt all 120 questions, but you have to look forward to maximizing your score. Hence, this is an exam which is testing you more on your speed, your strategy and your speed. So it's an entire ball game about handling your strategy very, very well. Okay, the one of the things which is done now, the exam, if you are aware of, is conducted over a period of 3 months from October to December, which is then slotted into windows. Usually, the window ranges from 17 to 19 days for each window, and across the window, normalization is done. So, choose your dates very wisely and then move ahead and give your exams. Before we go ahead into understanding the strategy for your study plan for the next 2 months, it is very important to know what is going to come in each section. So when I talk about the first section, which is your quantitative ability and data interpretation, let's try and dissect what are the major chapters from which the entire paper comes from. This will help us to structure your study plan and schedule in a much better way. So if you see the topic wise in quants is highly dominated by the arithmetic section. You have tons of questions. NMIMS loves arithmetic questions. So do not leave out even the basic and the easiest chapters like averages, percentages, profit and loss, simple interest. You have direct questions coming from them. Another set of questions which is very interesting is your mixtures and allegations. Trust me, that's one of the most simplest chapters, but doing tons of formulas makes it complex for people. Use your common sense. This is a very interesting chapter. Then you have time, speed, distance, which also includes questions based on your circular races and tracks and boats and streams and all of those kind of questions. Time and work would have a couple of questions, probably from either work hours, the man hours concept, or from pipes and systems. Then the next important chunk of questions which comes in are your numbers, where in all your calculator based questions which now no more come in CAT, like the remainder theorem and all of them, can easily be placed into your NMAT because you do not have a calculator in the NMAT exam. Mind you guys, remember that there is no calculator in NMAT. Okay, then you have basic questions coming from equations which could range from identities, especially questions based on the functions of a root, like imaginary roots and natural roots, all your quadratic equations concepts, and then your identities as well as special equations. So that is what the equations comprises of. Then you have modern maths questions which come from permutation and combination and probability. Moreover, this is what the area comes from. A couple of times you can also see in the modern math section questions coming in from probably set theory and Venn diagram. Not much, but maybe one or two. No harm in making sure you're doing all of these chapters. The next very important, like all the exams, of course there can be no exam without having a question of geometry. So geometry and mensuration is there, 3 to 4 questions. But in NMAT, moreover than direct formulas of geometry like or the angles, that focuses more on mensuration. The most favorite type of question in mensuration is where I give you that I have a big sphere which I want to mold and melt and mold them into small cubes. So what's the volume or number of cubes, etc. Basic questions of mensuration, for people who've studied it would understand it pretty well. And last is your data interpretation and data sufficiency. This is a true test of your patience. Here we test your decision making skills in terms of which set are you leaving. Mind you, guys, remember this is like a danger sign for you. One DI set is mandatory for you to leave. Make sure you do not waste too much of time solving it. Move on ahead to the questions which are solvable. It's obvious we put such difficult questions purposely so that you are spending time and wasting more time onto it. Alright, so DI, keep it towards the end and make sure you are doing your calculated risk on should I spend time or should I not spend time. Moving ahead to the most important set of questions, which is your logical reasoning. So here, unlike CAT, where the entire logical reasoning section is dominated by analytical reasoning puzzles, here it's not going to be that. You cannot leave out any chapter when it comes to NMIMS and NMAT exams. Okay, so all of these 40 questions are coming from all the various regions. You got to make sure you are doing every day at least 20 questions of logical reasoning. Trust me, this is your area to score as much as you can. Okay, now where do these questions come from? Majorly, first you have your analytical puzzles. The arrangement questions can be circular arrangement or seating arrangement questions, basically the linear arrangement. Okay, then you have matrix 3 level. Now what do I mean by matrix 3 variables is probably questions like, I tell you there are 5 people who are going to 5 different cities, wearing 5 different color t-shirts, and possessing a different car. So who is the one wearing the red t-shirt, or who is going to Bangalore in a Swift Desire? Such kind of combination. So these are called as matrix with multiple variable questions. The agenda is you to solve the puzzle. It's basically a puzzle itself only. Then very important, you see verbal reasoning. This definitely needs a lot of practice. They are very easy as long as you understand and have a knack for solving such questions. Okay, what are the verbal reasoning questions? You have statements and assumptions, or cause and effect, or questions like what could be the course of action that is taken, strengthening and weakening an argument, or inference based, the is it a fact, is it an inference, is it a judgment, those type of questions. This is very important, and remember this comes in the logical reasoning section and not in verbal ability. Okay, then moving on to the basic questions. They love questions from blood relations and syllogisms, and also coding, decoding, very easy questions come. Along with that, if you have direction sense and ranking test, a couple of questions coming in. You could also have questions instead of syllogisms sometimes coming in from the number series, wherein I give you a series of numbers and ask you what's the next one, and a big question mark, basically testing your logical mindset there. At last, we have a couple of questions coming from set theory and Venn diagram. The reason why set theory and Venn diagram I did not mention it to you in terms of the modern maths in the quant section is because we see most of these questions in NMAT coming in logical reasoning section rather than your quant section. All right, again, the danger part here, you have to definitely leave the questions. One puzzle is meant to pull you down, okay? So you have to let go of that one puzzle. Do not become emotionally attached to your paper. You do not have to solve everything. You have to maximize your marks. I'm time and again saying that the objective is to attempt the maximum number of questions correct. So focus on that. Now comes the most important and our favorite section for the verbal ability, which in NMAT is called as the language skills section. All right. Now, why is this the most interesting section? Is here you have 32 questions and 22 minutes. That means we have less than a minute also to solve each of these questions, right? So you got to be very good with this. If verbal is not your strength, work your ass off for the next 2 months and make it your strength, because trust me guys, you can score a lot here. In fact, the best part is you have questions based on your vocabulary coming in, which is a major chunk of questions, nearly like 15 to 20 questions. This should be a no brainer, like you either know it or you don't, so this helps you save your time as well also. And going ahead, the best ways to build your vocabulary is to go through the book called as Word Power Made Easy. I'm sure most of you guys would have heard about it. If not, just Google out, or you can check out the video on YouTube as well from Rahul sir on Norman Lewis Word Power Made Easy, which will help you build your vocabulary. Then you have the very easy, most scoring questions of the closed passage, which is primarily nothing but an entire paragraph with having 4 to 5 blanks, and you got to put the best word into it. Usually, these questions are based on prepositions or the usage of basic vocabulary questions, which would fit in there. All right, then comes the next thing, which is your critical reasoning, which is again very important. Here you have more questions coming on based on your assumptions, strengthening or weakening. Then you have parajumbles, one set. Probably sometimes they could have 1 or 2 questions of critical reasoning and have 2 sets of parajumbles. So make sure you practice that. In fact, parajumbles and your reading comprehension are 2 things which are very important to prepare for CAT. So make sure you are practicing a lot of these questions. Okay, the ideal way of approaching this section would be to first get as many marks as we can, right? So leave your reading comprehensions towards the end, because that takes up your time. It's going to utilize a lot of your reading time, so don't waste time onto that. Do the previous sections and then come to reading comprehension towards the end. All right, in fact, follow the order which I have given here itself: your vocabulary, then your critical reasoning, parajumbles, and finally comes your reading comprehension. All right, now let's come to the most important part, which is your study plan. How should you go about it? So for guys who have not yet started studying for the exams, gear up, pull your socks up, and let's make sure we are utilizing the next 2 months really well. So what you should do is, in the next 1 month, your focus has to be fully on clearing your basics and concepts. See, understand, this is an exam which is focusing on your speed, but you will have a good speed only when your concepts are clear and your basics are sorted completely. So make sure you are finishing your basics. The best way is, you guys have your basic books, the orange ones, so please finish the basic books of CATKing first, and the NMAT official guide. To get a better clarity on how to prepare, I would suggest to test the waters by giving 1 mark. In fact, in this week itself, give a mock. Let's see where you stand. You get a 50, you get a 100, you get a 120, you get a 160. It's all right. We would at least know. Plus, we would get used to the fact of sitting for 3 hours in one place and giving the exam. All right? And you got to make sure you are training yourself to understand the timer concept here, because no other exam has such cut short timings as NMAT has. All right, so this 1 month continuous focus should be on that. The next 15 days, I would ask you to focus and first make a chart of your strengths and weaknesses. All you got to do is just list down which are your strong topics, which are your weak topics. Then, for the next 15 days, we will pick up all the weak topics and make sure you are sorting that up. Why? Because you cannot afford to leave any chapters, especially when it comes to NMAT. So let's understand our weaknesses, but remember the timeline. This is going to be just for 15 days because post 30th of September, you should not be doing anything new. No new concepts, no new theories. Whatever you know, you know. Rest, leave it now. All right, so make sure you're doing that. Then we move on to October onwards, the final attempt. Here, focus on giving as many mocks as you can and analyzing your mocks. Guys, believe me, it's not easy to analyze your mocks. You have to spend a huge amount of time on understanding how's your performance, your sectional performance, your time management, everything. All right, plus training your mind to get used to the fact seeing that timer on the screen which says time left, time left, time left. Okay, do not hit your panic buttons, but get used to that. All right, I would suggest that you must give 10 to 15 full length mock tests before your NMATs for sure. So I would advise people to give at least 2 attempts, if not all the 3 attempts, but make sure within these attempts you have a considerable amount of time and at least a week's time to help understand yourself where could you have gone wrong. All right, so keep that in mind, definitely will help you do better. This is a quick look at how to start your NMAT preparation. So what we do is that we have this set of students whom we are mentoring at CATKing when it comes to the NMAT program. They are given a weekly schedule right from the beginning towards the end, what and how should their approach be and preparing onto it. If you have a close look at the entire schedule, you would see that you have each days I have put in set of logical reasoning questions like I mentioned as one of the tips before to you, that it is very important to give the logical reasoning questions and give it a lot of weightage. Okay, now after this, what are the other things that you can do? All right, so now let's try and understand what are the other things that we can look at. Then you have your vocabulary based direct questions, so make sure you're doing your Norman Lewis book definitely on a daily basis. Finish up the Norman Lewis at the earliest, it will be helpful for us. Once you're done with Norman Lewis, let's do some practice on your reading comprehension and data interpretation on a daily basis. Now this is going to help you not just in NMAT but also in your CAT as well also, because I'm pretty sure almost all of you guys would be giving the other exams along with NMAT, and I would highly advise that as well also. Even if you have people who have got, like your dream is to get into NMIMS, I would still say please aim for all the colleges and give all the exams. It'll help you better. All right, so follow this weekly kind of schedule. You could get the further ahead schedules what should be done next in each coming week once you have logged on to the NMAT maximizer. It will really help you to make sure that you are aligning your mocks as well as the analysis and strategy to have a clear line of sight with your plan of action and study preparation. All right, thanks to the same kind of an approach, probably I think we have 63 students who have got it into NMIMS, of course over various campuses, but it's all based on the kind of strategy and approach. Trust me, guys, NMAT is not difficult, it is only a strategic oriented exam. See, primarily you're going to become managers, and this is testing your all management skills, right from your decision making to your time management skills, and of course, your aptitude test as well, also. So make sure you are doing really well. Focus on your strategy and time. In fact, if you the NMAT online students, I shall be seeing you up next week again, where we will conduct all the live sessions to tackle the strategy for each and every section and how do you balance out your time while attempting the mocks. And stay glued, we shall soon coming up with how do you take the mocks and as well as analyze the mocks. Alright, I hope this video will help you guys to structure and start your plan of preparation, because it's never too late, but don't wait too much. Don't think. If you really want to do your MBA and NMIMS right now, pick a date and get started with your preparation. For any doubts or questions, you can reach out to my number which I have shared. I would prefer someone giving me a WhatsApp or dropping an email. I shall help you ahead in making sure you're doing really well in your NMAT exams. Okay, so thank you so much, guys, and all the best.